So we're back for another Parent Monday Mindset, and we have a really special guest with us, author and TEDxer Rachael O'Meara, and she
We're back for another
she comes to us with a lot of experience being in high pressure situations. You know, being a high performer in general, an achiever, but especially working for Google for many years. And I know, Rachael, you've had a really special path where, you've seen yourself sort of like a lot of parents in my group could relate, where you can kind of edge towards burnout. And what I'm really committed to today, and what I know you're really committed to today, is to get everybody 3 key empowering ways to make sure that they're getting out of that overwhelm that sort of leads down that road. And we're just so glad to have you here. I'll say a few more things to introduce you, but first, I'm sure you want to say hello.
Well, hello. Yeah. Hi, Vanessa. It's so good to be here in Raising Our Resilience and with such dedicated, committed individuals like I know you have in your group. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Rachael and I found each other several years back, and as we are in a similar community of professional women. And I just immediately saw the alignment for like what folks want in my world is to raise their resilience, right? To be able to, navigate the stresses that life will bring, especially life with children, since we're a parent group. But there's this other piece that you bring, Rachael, that I know that everybody in the group knows at least one person who could benefit from, which is that you really help folks who are like big hearted and really, wanting to do meaningful work or like really live a full life to sort of reclaim their lives when they feel stuck or unsatisfied. Yeah. So you feel into the power of that, everybody. And also we'd love to know anybody who's tuning in, even if you're listening to the replay, either in Rachel's group or in the Raising Our Resilience group, to just, put the word replay, let us know that you're here, because we'll come and hang out with you in the comments as well. Yeah. So let us know who you are, where you're tuning in from. If you have kids too, let us know so that Rachael can have a sense of what your hands are full with these days. So as a transformation and executive coach, like you stumbled upon something really insightful that you just had to share. I mean, that's why you wrote a whole book, you did a whole TEDx talk. So we use the word pause.
Here. I'm at my mom's house in Florida and she had it on the bookshelf. So I'm like, whoa, what a great prop I just found. But yeah, the book, it's blue. And I wrote it based on my burnout at Google, because I figured I cannot be the only one who's burned out and probably has learned a thing or two that could help other people, whether you're burning out yourself or feeling stressed out and you're on that trajectory, because that's where I was basically.
Oh my gosh. And what a gift to give back to your people. Like, just, I can see how that would put a kind of a fire in your belly for like, what, it doesn't have to be this way. So why did you pick Paws? Like, what's the deal with this Paws thing anyway?
Right. So the book is called Paws. My company is called Power of Paws. To me, pause is an intentional shift in behavior. And that's all it is. So that means a whole bunch of different things, right? It could mean a pause, like a literal, like time out, go out on the porch and sit with the flowers or look at the stars at night, or put your feet up and watch a video or Netflix binge or whatever. Like all of those are underneath the umbrella I would consider pause. But for me, what ended up happening was I took a 3-month unpaid break from Google, where I felt like I was just on this rut of not performing well. I felt like I felt miserable, basically. I felt like I could never get it right. I felt like everything was happening to me, not for me. I was a little bit of a victim mode, like, oh gosh, why is this happening again? And I felt like it wasn't for a lack of trying. So for me, I took this time out of Google, and I was very fortunate. Most companies don't have that luxury, but for me, it was better than quitting. And I had that as an option because I really didn't know what else to do. But to me, pausing is an intentional shift in behavior. And it was to like get back in alignment, like whatever that meant for me. And what I realized as I went to this 3-month, like kind of discovery and inquiry of like, who am I? Because what I thought I was doing wasn't really working. And what I realized was I just wasn't aligned. Like I wasn't a failure. I just wasn't aligned. And I think that maybe that resonates with you, Vanessa, or with anyone here who is a parent, because a lot of times it's not because we're failing. We feel like we're failing. We feel like we can't get it right. Maybe we don't have experience. It's our first round about around the block. And it's really more about, I'm actually just not aligned. Like I'm not aligned with what I need as a parent to know that that's what I need, or I'm out of whack so that no one else is getting what they need either.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what pauses to me. And I feel like if we could all just intentionally shift our behavior, even if it's a moment of your day or a thought or a feeling that you can name, then we can get back in alignment. And it's like those little shifts. And that's what I think to me is the pause thing, you know, like, and I named the book Pause because to me, that's kind of the essence of what I experienced. And there's all kinds of different types of pauses. Like an extended pause would be the one I did for 3 months, but like we're in a global pandemic pause right now, right? Like that's kind of the world.
That's real talk right there. Yes.
Right. So like,
Yes.
how are you shifting to align, right? Whether it's with parenting or with your new routines, or making sure you're feeling equipped and sustained. Like all of these things are super significant right now. And if we don't pause, we just miss it. It's like we just keep going. And then that's what leads to burnout and feeling really stressed.
And I'm wondering if anyone can just throw into the chat something that you relate to there, like that feeling of you just kind of push yourself to keep going, or you just are trying, even not pushing, but just trying to, keep up with things. And there's not that moment to actually like take a rest, or shift your, like you said, intentionally shift your behavior. I think the word intentional is so important there. And I wanted to speak to that for a second and then ask you a follow-up question. So when you say intentional, what I'm hearing is like shifting from this sense of like you just have to keep going, you just have to, right? Like that sense of like life just keeps happening, like it just keeps going, and there's not this sense of having the reins for a moment. And so that word of intentional just really makes it seem like it's more of an empowered place. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to think about it. And what I like to offer too is intention means you have to be conscious about it. You have to be awake enough to know where to go next. And the way I've been learning about intention through my teachers is that it's the way it's defined is it's your life, it's aliveness with direction. So think about it like that. So direction, like that means I must know where I need to go, or where I want to go. And that's the intention part, right? So if today is Memorial Day and I want to rest and renew and have some fun, that's my intention. It's my how. It's like, how do I want to be in the moment? And like, what is that outcome for myself?
I see. Yeah. Oh, that's so beautiful. I mean, the aliveness part too just makes it already feel more resourced. Aliveness, right?
Yeah.
Like being dragged or something through things, or pushed. And then,
Yeah.
so one hot topic in our group is around resilience, and we talk a lot about different ways that we can impart strategies and tools to the kids. And that's a lot of what I focus on in my trainings. And what I understand that, parents need in order to even access those tools and strategies is that intentionality, like that moment where like, instead of like, you almost catch yourself. And if you can relate to this, say, say like, I hear you, or something in the chat, in the comments, yeah, give us a little thumbs up here.
Like,
That
yes,
right, like you have this moment, like you said, awake, like you have this moment of awareness, this flash where you're like, oh, I'm doing that thing again where I am repeating myself too many times, or oh, I'm doing that thing again where I'm arguing with a 3-year-old and getting into a power struggle, or oh, I'm doing that thing again where I didn't go to the bathroom or drink a glass of water today because I've just been like,
here's my
so
water.
right. Yeah, there you go. That one too, right by my side. Yeah. And it's that moment of like awakeness that kind of like, flips us into that space. But tell us more about what it means to like the relationship between stress and our ability to be resilient. And I know we all know we need to manage our stress, but I've always found your insights really helpful, Rachel, to kind of bring it home.
Yeah. Okay. So this could be like a whole
Yeah,
this could be like a 2-day, 48-hour training
absolutely.
on that. So I'll do my best to change. Yeah. Yeah. I'll do my best to kind of like synthesize what I think are really core. And resilience can mean different things. The way it's probably similar to what you think of, right, Vanessa, where to me, it's like the ability to bounce back from a trigger moment or feeling depleted. And it's like, how's my way back? Is it something I can like smoothly do, or does it take me like days, and like my ability to resource myself can impact my ability to be resilient. And it can change day to day, right? If I got enough sleep, or if I'm eating well, or I'm hydrated, like literally it can be really different. And so it's the key theme in all of that is it's about like how am I doing, like checking in a little bit with ourselves. So resilience, knowing like that is the ability to bounce back from feeling depleted, or a trigger moment, where all I consider that is like when we get a little bit fired up about something. And it might be big, right? It might be like that Trump, like a tantrum from your 3-year-old, like you were alluding to. But it might also be like the neighbor down the street that just like, for whatever reason, whenever you're talking to them, it's like, why am I feeling resistance here? Right? So resilience is about our self-awareness to know, how am I doing in the moment, to check in with myself. So it's also that awareness, and it's also regulation of like, oh, I am feeling really angry, and naming a feeling, for example. So with stress, thinking about stress, this concept of stress, that can be like, think of it, it's not like a set point, it's a continuum, right? So you've got like maybe like little minor stress, and you got like major overwhelm and burnout over here. So wherever you are on that spectrum day to day, we can always choose to say like, how do I want to show up today? And even if I'm like at my wit's end and I feel depleted, like I can at least share that with someone and say like, I'm really feeling depleted and at my wit's end today. And already you're like acknowledging how you are in the moment, and that can make stress feel way different, because you're no longer managing that and having like mental energy around it, right? So I think of them as a relationship together, but the more I'm in touch and in tune with like, how am I doing, and then being able to be aware of that, but also regulate it, it increases my resilience, and it increases your resilience when you allow yourself to know how you're doing. That's the checking in, that's the intention, right? Like, how am I doing? Oh, okay, I'm like, scale of 1 to 10, I'm like a 4. Wow, I'm like really low energy today. Okay, well, my resilience is probably pretty low. What could I do to manage myself today? And it might mean you build in more breaks for yourself, which, you might be thinking like, well, I don't have time for that. Like I got soccer practice, and I got to drive my 10 neighbor kids to their job, like to their school activities. And so the idea is like, we have to act within our own realm. Like, what is it that's possible for you? But that's where pause comes in, intentional shifts in behavior. It doesn't have to be big stuff. It could be like, I'm going to take a 30-second dance break, like in the bathroom by myself, because I just need to move around and get this like energy out of my body. I feel really antsy, so that's kind of how I think of it, but they're directly related. And the more I'm in touch with my stress, and then I can actually name something or do something about it, pause, then the more my resilience goes up. They're directly related, I think.
And I think that's where there's, yeah, absolutely. And I think, of course, you're Rachel. You're like such an expert on this, but
I don't know what I'm kind of like, am I just talking on my butt here? But I don't think so. Like, I feel like it makes sense, but I just want to check in. I don't know. Sometimes I don't.
Well, you're so passionate about it. Sometimes we get talking, we just kind of flow, and it feels like we're not making, but you're making crystal.
I'm making sense. Okay, good.
Yeah, of course. Good. It's crystal clear, because here's what I'm hearing here, and this is the thing I want everyone to really notice that Rachel said. She's letting us know, and this is a big deal, okay? And everybody should write this down. She's letting us know that even in the constraints of a really high demand schedule and busy day, it will make a difference in our management of stress and our level of resilience if we can build in moments to pause, even if it's only 30 seconds. And I guarantee every single one of us can find 30 seconds several times throughout the day. That's like, yeah. Rachel, can I just thank you on behalf of everybody for giving us an easy win. Like, everybody
can easy win.
Like, yeah. Because I think, Elise is saying, yes, thank you. who's listening, one of the parents here. And if you relate to this, let us know, like, or write it down in the comments so we know you got it, right? Like, even for 30 seconds, several times a day, you're still chipping away at that stress, and you're helping to build that muscle of emotional intelligence.
Can I add one thing to that I think will even make it more powerful? Because I talk about this in my talks all the time. I do
Yeah.
like hour-long talks at different companies and things like that. And so one of the statistics I have on gratitude, so gratitude's a pause, right? Like being grateful, thanking somebody. So the research tells us that if we can be, you mentioned 3 minutes, which is great. So if you can practice gratitude for like 6 30-second blocks a day, so that's 3 minutes, you will change your neural wiring to feel more joy over 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, I should say. So what does that tell us? Thinking about those micro pauses, or thinking about like, what could I do different when you think nothing can really change? Well, the reality is actually that's our brains being in negativity bias. So it actually isn't true, and we're wired for that, right? But the idea is that we can do a little bit of gratitude. So thanking someone who keeps the door open, or like waving to a car that like lets you in the line, or you let someone in the line. Like there's so little, but those are like, I say 30 minutes. So that's, 3 minutes a total, but you could do 1 minute of gratitude, but 30 seconds seems like even more doable than a minute, because a minute can be actually kind of long if you're like talking to someone and thanking them. But 30 seconds,
Yeah.
6 times a day isn't a lot. And it can
Right.
actually, after 2 weeks, improve your joy. The gratitude is there's research studies with this, and Brene Brown did some of this on the more gratitude we express, the more joy we're inclined to feel, which I think is pretty cool. And our kids can do that too.
Absolutely. Well, that's where we can start talking about like, it's absolutely possible to build these practices into daily life. And one of the best ways to do that is like hang it on another routine. So when you sit down for dinner, a moment of gratitude. When you're about to get in the bath or the shower, a moment of gratitude. And Rachel, I don't know if we haven't had a chance to really swap about this, but I've actually done quite a bit of research on gratitude. It was part of my master's thesis.
I know
And
that. That's awesome.
yeah,
You
yeah,
have to preach to the choir here.
no, it's amazing. I'm so glad you brought it up, because sometimes, I don't always keep it close to the topic of resilience, but that there's so many ways that building in a pause with gratitude does literally rewire your brain. And you mentioned the negativity bias, and I wanted to just share a little bit about that, just to kind of, round it out for us here, because a lot of people don't realize that we can be hardwired to notice the bad things more. So like imagine a plate of chocolates, but there's one cockroach on it. Guess where your eyes are going to go, and guess what you're going to feel later. Yeah, right? Like one negative thing. Sometimes like you've had your kids come to you and you're like, how's your day? And they only talk about that one hard moment all day. And you're like, they had like 700 other moments, but they're only on the hard negative moment. And we're wired to do that for a good reason, actually, right? To like make sense of what was, either threatening or difficult, so that we can have more strategies maybe the next time that happens. And that's fine.
Survival. Yeah.
Yeah, but what can happen over time is we actually can have a bias towards giving the negative emotions or negative thoughts or negative experiences okay, yeah, it can give us more, we can give them too much of our energy, too much of our time, too much of our attention, and then we get into these like ruts of negative thinking, and negative, and then we'll actually look at, like, there will be this beautiful room full of amazing things happening, but you only notice that there's that sock on the floor, and that's all you can see, and you're like, oh, the sock again, right? So so switching to positivity bias, we can actually, like you said, we can train our brains to focus on the goodness. And that's not to sedate us into some lull of like, we're not going to ignore all of our problems. It's just to give us more buoyancy. Like you're mentioning, these pauses really help us to have the possibility of having more resilience, so that when hard things do come, we kind of have our buckets fuller and more resources.
Right. And the pause is again that check in to a notice it and say, hey, oh, there I go again. Like I'm not feeling, this isn't objective. This is my critic mind, or this is like what I'm seeing is the only thing that's worth looking at right now. And it's like, no, it's not.
Well, isn't that pretty chronic for high achievers, and also especially in high pressure situations, like maybe someone who's really going for it in their career, or, just has a really full schedule as a parent, rushing around. Like we can tend to just kind of go from problem to problem or fire to fire.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I would consider that is task mode, right? So it's like you're in your doingness. as my breathwork facilitator likes to say, your beingness is not attached to your doingness, and pausing is in service to your doing. But here's the thing, and I think I remember talking about this last time, when we're in the task mode, our brains are actually physiologically unable to access the positive in that way that we would like be in that open space and creatively look around and like notice and being gratitude. Like it's actually physiologically like a binary switch. So you're either in task mode or you're in like this like positive network of neurons in your brain. Isn't that fascinating?
That's really fascinating. And so can that be sometimes a barrier for some folks who have just been, I mean, I will say that from being a parent, from being in a room full of children for 15 years, as a teacher, it's so easy to absolutely be always in task mode. Like you're just like always, okay, what's next? What's next? What's next? What's next?
And
And I can
so why, yeah, exactly. And so this is where this is like I get fired up about it, because that's why burnout is the number one health condition right now, like a threat to our world, as burnout is led to stress and heart disease and high cholesterol and diabetes, premature death before the age of 45, because we're so stressed out because we're only doing. So for me, my message is, if we can integrate the pausing, which is what it takes, is integration. It takes conscious thought to say, okay, I'm going to pause for 10 seconds as I name a feeling. It's not a lot, but it's actually getting out of the doing mode to be.
Yeah.
Feeling requires you to be in your body, neck down. And that's why I'm so passionate about helping people learn more about their emotions, because it is what the key is, I believe, towards resilience and getting into a space that feels sustainable in the long run. And we have not operated in that way before as a society or a culture.
So really what we're doing is, like you're suggesting, is for us to disrupt a pattern that we tend to fall into, as like, our culture tends to move our nervous systems towards. So we're like disrupting it with this pause. And so sometimes, I mean, I use the word disrupt for a reason, because it almost feels a little revolutionary, to be honest. Like you're just like, no, I don't always have to be on. Like I actually,
what a concept.
Like I actually get to like look away from my computer screen or whatever it is, and take a break and really give myself some nourishment. I remember that was a key word last time we had you on. And I think first recognizing that you physiologically have to shift out of task mode in order to receive that. To me, like has been such a huge takeaway in all of our conversations, Rachel. I've actually coached myself through many moments of being like, are you actually putting the task down to take a break? Or are you pretending to put the task down and pretending to take
I hear you, sister. I'm so right there with you. And I'm freaking the author of the book. Like I get it. And it's just not our nature, especially high performers, people who are achievers, like everyone in this group, I'm sure, is a high achiever. Otherwise you wouldn't be here. And it's like, we got to where we are because we did our doing so well. But the thing is, if we don't catch up and allow our beingness to be with us, and by that I mean knowing how we feel, being present to ourselves with others, being present with others, we miss ourselves in it and we don't get nourished. That's what we were talking about last time. And we just keep doing, and then we just like everything else, we miss it. We miss the beingness, and then we wonder where the day went. We wonder like, how come I don't even know what I want anymore? All of those things lead into when we lose that being in touch with like, how am I doing and how am I being, I should say.
Yeah. So I think we're getting so we just did, by the way, everybody should know, we just did a cognitive strategy, right? So we're using our minds to like wrap our head around a concept so that we are more likely to put, these new micro practices into place. We just did that for you by saying, look, your brain, when it's in task mode, can't receive nourishment. So that's like the first hack, to just actually understand what the power of the pause really is and how significant it can be, especially in, regularly throughout the day, like you suggested, 6 times a day for 30 seconds over 2 weeks. And, really noticing what changes in just 2 weeks. Like there's so few things that shift dramatically in 2 weeks, right? Like 2 weeks is a really short time, but you've seen it, Rachel, right? Over and over again with your clients, with the people in your Facebook group, like people who spend a week or 2 with you in a training series, that they actually at the end of, they're like, Rachel, this is getting easier. This is like something I do now.
Yeah, yeah. And so gratitude's such a great way to start. Like we said, it's linked to feeling more joy. And like one of the other hacks I have is around these primary emotions where you can just name a feeling. So if you feel joy, name it. Like I feel joy right now. And there's four other emotions that I work with, and one of my one of my tenets is that, and this took me, my gosh, my whole lifetime to relearn, but there's no such thing as a negative feeling or feeling a bad feeling, right? Like
Mm.
my from where I'm looking, and what I've retaught myself is that all feelings are neutral, but we like to label stuff, and our brains like to come up with little like labels based on our families and how we were raised, and we pass it on, right? Family systems. But if we can name a feeling, and the five I work with are joy, so you name that one, and then fear, which is also could be like anxiety, but I just call it fear. Anger, which could be frustration, sadness, and then the
Mhm.
fifth one that I work with is hurt. and
Yeah.
and and there's different schools of thought on that, but like fear, hurt, joy, sadness, anger, they're all designed to move us from pain to pleasure. And like that's there's research in that. And like think about it, when you do feel fear, like you're afraid to have a conversation, the idea is to get us out of danger, like, oh, that might disrupt how I'm doing, and so on and so forth. So the idea is, when we think about feelings as data, that's the
Yeah.
other part here, is like they can really inform ourselves, and they can inform us to be more in relationship with others and all of that.
So I'm
Yeah,
wondering, Rachel, if we could take a moment to try one of those two hacks before you share the third one, because we really like a little hands-on kind of
absolutely.
moment. Yeah. So which one, I guess, because people could choose one or the other. So your first option, folks who are here, and I've got Elise here on Zoom, and I know we've got some folks listening on the Facebook group as well. Go ahead and pick, would you like to have 30 seconds of gratitude? Or would you like, think of something you're grateful for and tune into it? Or would you like to take 30 seconds to really tune into which of these core emotions you're feeling? And Rachel, let me see if I got them right. Is it joy, fear, anger, sadness, or hurt?
Hmm.
Yeah, all
Yeah.
five. Okay. And then in the comments, even if you're listening to the replay, in the comments in our chat, let us know, put a number like 1 if you did the gratitude one, and just write a sentence about it so that we can share that with you. But before you write anything, okay, let's get you out of your brain for a second. How about Rachel, would you help us like just drop in for a second
Mhm.
with this? Okay.
Yeah. So one of the best ways I like to drop in is just to like do the conscious belly breath pause. So this is like a mini micro pause. So would you like to do that? We can practice that. So just uncross your legs, uncross your feet. You can like shake out your hands or move around your neck, whatever your body wants to do. The body's always wise. So you can move around, wiggle your toes, and then close your eyes if you feel comfortable with it. Otherwise, you can soften your gaze, just allow yourself to have a soft focus, but feel free to close your eyes totally if it works. You can keep your back straight and a little bit away from the chair back if you can, if you're sitting down. But just go ahead and take a deep breath, inhaling through your nose, holding it up at the top of your breath for as long as you can, and then exhale through your mouth and relax as you do it, like this. I just did a whole exhale there. Keep going. Make a sound if you feel called. Open your eyes and just just go back to normal breathing. And I'm curious, does anyone feel different? Type in a yes or raise your hand, or I know we can't see you all, but I know I feel different. And so what we just did was we actually slowed down our emotional response. That breath is designed, and when we do an inhale through our nose and a slower exhale, we're two things. We're allowing the parasympathetic nervous system to kick in, which is that rest and digest mode, which is the being part, right? And we are slowing down our emotional response, which means I'm a little more aware maybe of how I'm feeling. Hopefully that helped you drop in, and I know it did for me.
Absolutely. So, I mean, you kind of jumped right to our third hack, which I love. I think that was the third one, right? So we have gratitude, naming your feelings, and really feeling into the fact that they're helping us move from pain to pleasure. And the third one, I mean, it's tapping into that body's wisdom by inviting in that deeper breath where you hold it and then release it slowly and all the way out. So one of these 3 hacks, I mean, I could totally see fitting in for 30 seconds in a day, no problem. I guess was kind of inviting folks too to go ahead and try the gratitude one
Kind of
and
jumped in there.
try the naming one now that you've dropped into your body a bit more with that breath. So maybe let's all take another breath or two, and we
Yeah,
can either
the good
shift.
news is we all know how to breathe. Yeah, so,
Yeah.
so we can just keep breathing, and it's also something we can always tap into to just
Mhm.
make more intentional again, right?
Yes.
Do I need a deep breath? Just kind of
Yeah.
reset, or am I okay to just keep going?
So let's go ahead and give ourselves all another pause. I love it, Rachel. It's like because people, we're all here. So like, let's get, we can nourish ourselves
Right.
right now. Let's take another breath, maybe 2, maybe 3, and either focus on something you're grateful for, right? Or something that, just tuning into how you're feeling right now and naming that. And I love the word noticing because it's so neutral, just noticing.
Mm-hmm.
About 10 more seconds. Nice. So take a moment to actually make a little comment in the chat or note to yourself. Notice what shifted for you. And maybe just I like to kind of grab a thing, right? So here's a tool, 30-second pause where you either bring in gratitude, like I see Elise is doing, a 30-second tool where you either bring in some gratitude, definitely dropping into your body, maybe also naming an emotion or a sensation that you're feeling. I can do a share real quick, and then the rest of you can be thinking about what your share might be and putting it in the chat. But I think for me, what I noticed right away was, oh my gosh, like my lower back would like a little more support. So I ended up kind of tucking my tailbone in a little and just supporting my core, and that felt really good. And my back actually adjusted. So I was like, if I hadn't just taken that moment, I would have been sitting in this posture that was probably doing a little harm. And then with the gratitude, I was like, the sun, I just found myself being like, the sun is shining. And it felt really good just to say that. And then the feeling, I'm like, I'm actually a little tired because I just went to a wedding all weekend in LA. So I'm like, oh, tired. Okay. So I'm going to want to go to bed early tonight. And it's okay to just be with that. Like, I'm just tired. Okay. Got it. Not be mad at myself. Oh, I should have, whatever. All the judgment that can come in or criticism, which achievers tend to do. I just go like, okay, there it is. I see it. I notice it. I accept it. Yeah. Neutrally. How about,
And can I ask you a question on the tired? Because the thing is there's so many feelings out there, right? But like if you had to break it down or drill down to the 5 primary feelings that I was mentioning, what one or ones would you say are underneath the tiredness?
Thank you. I love it when we go deeper, Rachel. You're so good at that. I feel like a little sadness just because it was sad to say goodbye to all my family who I hadn't seen in so long. So I think I'm a little tired from just that feeling of oh, I don't know when I'm going to see them next. So I think that's probably the thing the feeling that would love to be acknowledged right now, so I could move from pain to pleasure.
Yeah. Awesome. Well done. Yeah. Like when we can, because that's a lot of times what will happen if you name the feeling, but you're like, I feel good. And it's like, well, good's not a feeling. It's joy, fear, hurt, sadness, anger, or hurt. I don't know if I said them all there, but the idea is like when we allow ourselves to go deeper, we're actually like connecting the neural network, again, mind, body, and we're making it stronger every time we name a feeling, and we keep to those 5 because our bodies are in that primal state of like knowing emotions. But if we're not putting a conscious name to it, then we're going to associate maybe sadness with tiredness, and it's not the same. And we have to honor how we feel, whether it's you or your child, because that's true to who you could become. Like that's you. That's authentically 2,000,000% you. And what better way to do that than to name a feeling in the moment? I'm just like a big fan of that. So thanks for playing with
I can tell that you've helped a lot of people with that. So Rachel, I mean, so I just want to make sure, was there any other little like tip or hack that you wanted to make sure that our
We
busy
covered so much. Yeah,
Americans-
I think like great recap on gratitude, because that is a pause. And I think if you can build these in throughout your day, the goal is to integrate it. It's not about like going on vacation for a week and then forgetting everything and jumping right back into task mode. While we all do that, and myself included, the idea
Yeah.
is like, how do I bring this into a way of being for myself? And that's where the rubber meets the road. That's not easy. That takes conscious work. It's hard because we have a million things to be doing. So we'd rather do it because that's what we know. And so that, I think, is just my main message, is to know that these pauses aren't necessarily when you feel stressed. The idea is to continue to do them when you're actually relaxed, so that when you do feel stressed, you'll have like that go-to and be able to get out of it that much quicker and faster and easier for yourself.
Oh, I love it, Rachel. That's so powerful. And we really can't hear it enough times. Like we really need to we need to know that we all of us deserve to not wait until we're in crisis to take good care of ourselves.
Yeah.
All of us need to know that we don't need to be on the verge of burnout or already like in a frazzled state to take that pause. And I just thank you for reminding us of that. That's so empowering. Really appreciate
Yeah,
that.
you're welcome. You're so welcome. And then like, I mentioned the book Pause. There's so many more tools in here too, that I would just invite you, if you're like, well, yeah, I would like to know more about this pain pleasure thing, or like feelings. A lot of what I work in is that. So I invite you to
Yeah.
check it out.
Well, we can all tell you're super fired up about it, and you've got so many good gems to share with us. I mean, and from the TEDx stage to a New York Times best-selling book, like you are definitely changing lives, and we're so grateful that you were able to, make time in your very busy
It's
schedule.
not quite New York Times bestselling, but I love that you called it that. I'm like, yeah, sure. In my mind it is, but it was a best-selling book, but not necessarily on the Times list. I just want to clarify that.
Okay, well, you
We
know
can
what?
pretend it was.
What's that?
We can pretend it was, but it came out in 2017. But yeah, it was not a New York Times bestseller, but we can pretend it was. Yeah.
Oh, okay, that was like best business book for something. So I
Yeah,
must have.
that was true. That was true. But yeah, I just want to like, I'm
Yeah,
like
like
now.
set the record straight here.
Yeah,
So.
and you're not the first person to say that. So maybe that's in my world, is like, let me try to make that clear. Yeah.
Yeah, and
So,
I think perhaps we just I can see the power of this being so far-reaching that, of course, like in my mind, it's like, of course it was, Rachel.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, I put the TEDx talk together based on the book. And
mhm,
then, like that was more recent, and I'm coming out with a journal soon. So I just feel like
yeah.
I keep building on this concept. Pause to me is like the key into being more self-aware, to unlock so much that can benefit you in the future and going forward in your lives.
Yeah. And so, Rachel, you especially love to work with people who identify as leaders or achievers. And that's because they are more than anyone. Like, I mean, they're doing amazing things in the world, and oftentimes they're leaving themselves out of the equation. They're not taking good care of themselves, and then they head towards that burnout place. And I know you want nothing more than to help folks like that really reclaim their lives, where they get to build in their pauses. And this is just the first step. I know you've got so much more for folks. So
Yeah.
if folks wanted to stay in your world and continue getting your tips, and I'm also guessing that many people in this group know exactly that. They have exactly that person. They have that best friend who's been working their butt off, but their health is starting to fail, or who complains about being overwhelmed. The only thing they say with, how are you doing? Busy. Like, you've got folks in your world, all of us do, that could
Yep.
benefit from
Yep.
this really good science-based, kind of shift in practice. So you've created a Facebook group where people can stay in touch with you and continue learning from you. Is that right, Rachel?
Yeah. Yeah. I've got the Be the Pause group on Facebook, and it's awesome because we have Pause Fridays there. So similar to what you do on Mindset Monday, we're there doing our pauses, and it's a community for like-minded individuals. It's a sisterhood, but we still have some guys in there because I think it's important to just have like whoever is important and like really resonating with our world. And also have a business page too, so you can like that and get updates. Yep. Be the Pause
Awesome.
sisterhood.
Yeah, great. So I just dropped the link because I grabbed it while you were sharing that, and just dropped the link, and so folks can find you. And I highly recommend. It's a free group. There's like literally no like risk. Like, just go in asked to join, and then you'll be looped in on a lot of what Rachel's up to. And especially, I know you have some exciting events coming up that are like really geared to those like, high achieving professionals,
That's
especially,
right.
or achieving parents who really want to make sure that they're taking care of this now before they get to that burnout place. So yeah, it's a great time to join as well for those
That's
reasons.
right.
You can catch
Yep.
the wave this next month. Yeah, excellent. And we
Thank you
want you
so
to
much
let us know.
for hosting
Yeah,
me.
like of course, and please announce it to our group when the journal comes out to accompany your book. It's always exciting.
Yeah, that will be this fall, I think. But it's
Okay.
called Pause the Journal. But I'm such a big fan of writing in a form of pausing, right? Intentional writing. So it's about how to use intentional writing to create your dreams. And I do believe that with more journaling and writing, you can be closer to the dreams and actually get them and achieve them as you want to achieve, just like everything else you want to do. But writing really helps.
Yeah. Well, like oftentimes we're just busy, doing, trying to knock out the tasks to get to our dreams, but we're forgetting to build in that intentionality, that pause. And I love that you want us to be in communication with ourselves, like really, because the first and primary relationship, it's us. Like,
Yeah.
like we have people around us who are going to encourage us to take breaks and things like that, but really it's up to us. I mean, we're the ones who are going to build in the pauses for ourselves, especially when you have a bunch of people you're managing, a bunch of projects going, or like, lots of children around, or like a high energy kid. Like you're going to be the one. They're not going to say to you very often, although sometimes they do, but hi mommy, you look tired. You should probably take a break. It's like us. We have to do it.
It's up to you. I love that. That's a great way to end. Like it's up to you. It's your choice.
Yeah. And like what a powerful thing to realize, especially if there's something you're unhappy with, like you wish were different. Like, actually, guess what? There's something you can do. Good news.
Yeah.
The good news. Yeah. So we're gonna wrap there, Rachel, and thank you again for being so generous with your time and for sharing your wisdom with us.
I love being with your community, Vanessa. Have me back as many times as you can. I can't get enough. I love it. You guys are all like doing such wonderful work, knowing that you're raising your resilience. There's no better cause, I think, than to be working on yourselves. And this is testament to being the purposeful parents you are as you raise your resilience, and your kids are going to be all the better for it, as you will be too.
Oh, thank you for that. Yeah, I know a lot of folks that means a lot to be seen and heard that way. So appreciate you.
Keep going.
Yes, we will. All right, everybody, that wraps our Mindset Monday. We'll be back next Monday. One quick announcement I have is that we have a couple of events coming up in our group. And the best idea is to register so that you can make sure you have a chance to get the free guides that go with it and kind of follow along with our fun, kind of emails and things that kind of announce contests and prizes and just kind of keep it top of mind, so that if this is something that where you want to be, you'll remember to come back and for more and more. So those are in the link in the chat, and then we'll see you next Mindset Monday, and then we'll roll into our exciting June events. So we'll see you all then, and let's all give a wave and throw up a heart and send our love. Put something in the chat if you'd like to just thank Rachel for being here, and we'll see you next time, Rachel. We'll be glad to have you back.
Thank you so much.
All right, take care, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.